Okay, so now that we've taken a look at how email piping works and what it is, we're going to go ahead and get this set up through cPanel. Now, if you don't have cPanel, don't panic. If you're using a cheap hosting provider or even an expensive hosting provider, you may be supplied with cPanel. It's just a way to manage your site, with a really easy to use user interface. So you may be familiar with this, and if so, that's great. You should be able to do what we're about to do. If not, go ahead and register for some hosting that uses cPanel, and you'll be able to experiment with this. Unfortunately, it's not available to do on localhost, as it would just get a bit too complicated. But it's worthwhile following this along, because eventually a site's going to be live. You're not going to be running on localhost forever, so it might be worth just doing this in isolation and practicing. It's really, really fun to do as well, and the things that you can do with it are great. Anyway, let's go ahead and set this up. So I have logged into tagfin.com and I'm presented with my cPanel page. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit subdomains, and I'm going to go ahead and set up a subdomain for tagfin.com that's going to allow me to send email to this, and any email sent to this address is going to be rerouted to the email pipe, or piped through to a script. So I'm going to just call this email.tagfin.com, and you'll see here that the document root is now going to be /public.html/email. So we're going to have an email within our overall server root, public root. So I'm going to go ahead and click create, and that should give me a confirmation message that's been created. So we now have this email.tagfin.com. Great. So let's go back home and go over to our file manager. We're going to be doing everything through this file manager. It's just going to make it a lot easier to do rather than FTP uploading anything. So we've now got this email folder that's been automatically created for us. Within here, we need to go ahead and create a script that's going to allow the processing of this email that's sent to us. So let's go ahead and hit new file, and we'll go ahead and call this parse.php. It can be called anything you like, but it just makes sense to call it something relative to what it does. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go and actually go back to the cPanel here, and we're going to go ahead and set up the fact that any emails sent to email.tagfin.com are piped to this script. So under mail, I'm going to go ahead and hit default address, and what this does is it gives me some options here. At the moment it's forward to your system account Tagfin, but what we want to do is pipe to a program. So you can go ahead and read this description if you like, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you what this does. So what it does is it will send this email to a script, and we'll be able to basically pick up all of the details within this script. And it has to be something like /public HTML. So make sure as you're typing it correctly, or this just won't work at all. So this is really, really important that we get this correct. So it's public HTML /email. You can see it popping up here. It just gives you sort of some satisfaction that it's there, and we can just click on it. So that's fine. We can now pipe to this parse.php file that we've already created. So go ahead and click change, and there we go. So all unrouted email for tagfin.com is going to home, tagfin, public HTML, email, and parse.php. So I'm going to go ahead and click go back, and that's it. We can now go ahead and edit this file and go ahead and actually start to read this email and send some data back to the user. Okay, so the first thing that we need to think about is using a hashbang to tell this how to be interpreted. So the first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and use the hashbang. I'm on a Linux system, or hosting rather, so I'm going to go user bin php q. Now I'll tell you what the Q means in just a moment, but if you're unsure about the path to your PHP interpreter or processor, whatever you want to call it, then you need to go ahead and check with your hosting, and they'll be able to provide you with assistance on this. Now Q means that we don't bounce this email back to the user as we would sort of like a mail undelivered bounce back. If for any reason that this page that we're just about to write code in has any errors on it, you will get this mail returned sent back. So then you'll know that there's something wrong with the code in the script. So if you're just getting the email undelivered and sent back with an error, then you'll know that there's something wrong with the code here. So obviously we're going to go ahead and use our PHP tags. We're going to write some code in here that's going to read the contents of the email, So there's a location that the email will be temporarily stored in, which we can then grab the contents of and start to strip apart with regular expressions. Now it sounds difficult, but it's not actually that difficult, so don't worry about it at all. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is actually read the contents of the email. So I'm going to create a variable called email. Let me just enlarge this. Okay, so I'm going to create a, reading the file contents of this file. So I'm going to use file get contents. Now, what do I want to read in? Now, this is PHP : //stdin, and this is just where the email is temporarily stored, so we can grab the contents of the email. Now, this is quite tricky because we can't really test this as such. The reason, well, we can, but it's just a bit awkward too. The reason being is that we can't output anything to the page here because we're not, nothing's going to be sent back to the user, so we won't know. So the best way to test this out is to go ahead and use the mail function and send an email back to this user and sort of output the contents of the email. So let's go ahead and do this manually for now, and then we'll look at doing this properly a bit later on. So I'm entering the first parameter is the email that we're going to send this to. The second is the subject, so from my email pipe. And then we're going to go ahead and send the contents of this email here, so this email variable, in the body. So I'll just go ahead and type in email there. We can also then use headers, so from, I'll just say no reply at tagfin.com. Okay, so we've done this now. This is very basic. It's just going to send these details back to us. So I've gone ahead and saved that. Let's go ahead and open up email client and go ahead and send something. So I'm going to say abc123@email.tagfin.com. Now this is going to determine whether everything's worked properly. So I'm going to go ahead and type in subject and body. So go ahead and click send. And hopefully we don't get any errors and we have this email sent back to us. Okay, so it doesn't seem to have come through, so let's go ahead, no worries, and take a look at what might have gone wrong. So everything here is fine. Another problem, it could be that, yes, okay. Now the reason this has happened is I have sent all unrouted email for tagfin.com instead of email.tagfin.com. So this has remained the same now, so we've just basically changed the domain. So we've got this email subdomain, and we want to pipe to a program, and we want to pipe to this pass.php file. So go ahead and click change. That's now been saved. Make sure this file's saved, and let's go ahead and start this process again. So abc123@email.tagfin.com, test subject and test body. Let's go ahead and click send. Okay, so we've got a mail delivery failed, returning to sender. Now, something else has gone wrong, so we'll have to have a look at this in a bit more detail. But basically, we can see that we've got this back, and it says pipe to home, tagfin, public HTML, email, pass.php. So we can see that everything here is sort of telling us. All this detail here as well is telling us about what we've sent. So we've got test subject here and test body here. So we've got all the information that we need. It just doesn't seem to be processing properly. So let's go ahead and load cPanel back up. Now we've got another problem that we could face with this, and the fact that the permission set to 644. Now we want this to be readable to all, so we're going to go ahead and say 755. So let's go ahead and try this one more time. We've pretty much covered every problem that we could get with this. So we're going to go ahead and send an email with test subject and test body. Go ahead and click send. And then hopefully we should get this email back here from my email pipe. Perfect. Now all of these contents look the same as this, so you might be thinking, well, what's going on? The difference is that we've just output the contents that we get back from the email. And in the next part of the tutorial, what we're going to be looking at is how we can strip apart this data here. So how we can grab subject here, how we can grab the body, and things like how we can grab which email it's been sent to, and therefore this being the user ID. So we need to strip this content apart using a combination of regular expressions, and then we'll use explode on here to grab just this part of the data. So that's basically it for the how to actually set this up. Now we're going to look at in the next part stripping this data and actually making some use of it.